Welcome to Goat vs. Fish News. It's Newsday Tuesday, and we're here to cover the critical verses. Fish, fire, fish, fire, fish, on fire. World champion fish stick eater. Is it a stick? Is it a finger? Do fish have fingers? Are you goat or are you fish? The great goat graze-off continues once again in the verses of 2026. Who shall triumph? Big Buddy, Malamar, or Romeo? It's goat on goat versus. All of this information and less on your Goat versus Fish Newsday Tuesday. I am your versus Goat versus Fish. And this is your informational celebrational. Welcome, Goat and Fish. Welcome to another Newsday Tuesday with Goat vs. Fish, part of your long versing morning motivational series, Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Specific Standard Time. You can't spell news without verses, because a W is a double V, and news ends in an S, which means that news ends in a verses. And it's all a versus. It's all Goat versus Fish. Those of you who are tuning in, who are tunering into this news station for the first time, you realize that after you've been listening to the news and the politics, you start to realize that you've heard it all before. You've heard it all before, haven't you? All the news starts to sound the same. And who is to blame? Who is to blame for all of this news sounding the same? We think you know. It's the same cycles, it's the same systems, it's the same universe, it's the same politics. All happening over and over again, it's the same incentives. As long as the fence sitters domination our public discourse, you will never hear the true verses of Goat versus Fish. The fence sitters try to hide from you the true verses, but here on Goat versus Fish News, you have to come to a humble versus like Goat versus Fish just to get the true critical information, just to get the verses you need to get through your day. Get your caffeination, get your hydration, get your inebriation. Here on the Goat versus Fish Morning Motivation, we wake up so you don't have to. And now Goat versus Fish is going to change the title of the Twitch stream because it still says it's Temple Mondays and not Newsdays Tuesdays. Yes, appreciation. Thank you, Goat and Fish. Yes. Yes, Goat versus Fish. Very professional. We wouldn't want to leave you with any kind of false information. Goat versus Fish. Yes. No, we're not playing Church Simulator anymore. That's for the Temple streams on Mondays. This is a news and politics stream. Okay, maybe it's just a politics stream. Welcome to Goat versus Fish. Welcome to Goat versus Fish. Wow Mom is in the verses. BBDH187 is in the celebration. Bud Morgan, G5P, welcome to Goat versus Fish. Psychic Buckeye 12, welcome to Goat versus Fish. And now, Discord promotion of Goat versus Fish. Discord promotion of Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, we got a lot of verses. We got a lot of verses, and we have some internal politics on Goat versus Fish. We've got a Wow Mom video. Wow Mom has sent in. Oh, hold your applause. This is news. We're not supposed to get all that excited about it, remember? Goat and Fish, we've got the Supremo Goat Wow Mom who seized power or was duly and properly elected. You decide. Last Goat versus Fish Newsday Tuesday politics stream has sent in to Goat versus Fish a video of their acceptance speech, their verses moving forward, a declaration for Goat. We're going to cover Wow Mom's declaration for GOAT here on Goat vs. Fish, here on Goat vs. Fish. And why don't we start off with that versus? Why don't we start off with that versus? Yes, the world of Goat vs. Fish, it's starting to shape up. Many Goat and Fish have been versing for a long time now, but it seems that the Goat and Fish factions are starting to take their internal organization a bit more seriously as they enter more competition with one another, realizing that the competitive edge they need to triumph in the infinite and never-ending and everlasting verses of Goat versus Fish might come down to some sort of principle of social organization. And therefore, in the previous verses of Goat versus Fish, Wow Mom became the Supremo Goat, and Joy Evil became the cod parent of all fish. These verses could change at any verses. We know that politics is an ever-shifting game, and welcome to TML is Fish. Celebration. So let's start our Tuesday News Day by getting into the verses, and let's look at what Wow Mom has to say about Goat versus Fish, like this. Celebration. Goat versus Fish. We shall watch this versus. We'll just watch this versus straight from the interwebiverse. Like this. Here's Wow Mom ready to give their statement about the state of Goat. So let's hear what Wow Mom has to say about Goat. This is Supremo Goat, Wow Mom. What will they say about Goat? What will they say about Fish? We think the versus is about to begin. And here goes Wow Mom.
Greetings and celebration. It's me, Wow Mom. That's my Twitch handle, Wow Mom. I am Car in the Garage, the Keg Killer on Monday Night Karaoke. You know me by my works. A great many goat and fish of my creation reside in the shrines of Goat versus Fish. I crochet and knit very many
celebration. It's true versus. Wearing a shirt of Goat versus Fish now.
I've done much for the verses, and now it's in this new appointment as Goat Leader. I'd like to do something for the goat of the congregation. In the event that one of the congregation must be called upon to serve their fellow goat and gain distinction as a leader among them.
This is live.
To versus the fish. A nomination is made by goats of this humble congregation of Goat versus Fish to appoint a Supremo Goat to climb every mountain, to find sure footing, to scale an impossible precipice, to horn in, to ruminate, to leap and capriole, to kid around.
This is inspirational.
To browse for delectables, to live deliciously, to bleat loudly, and to never sit on the fence.
Celebration.
The versus is long, and it's been so since the beginning when Goat versus Fish said there should be goat and fish. And in doing so, we now have a divine right to the land upon which we live. We will always be versus the fish, and therefore versus the sea. We will not tolerate sea levels rising and encroaching on our precious land. Ours is the grass of the land, and we will tell fish to keep off the grass.
Very versus kind of statement here. Always versus the fish.
And the threat of rising sea levels is a division that is neither goat or fish. A division that would keep goat from fish. An isolating monument that would defy the providence of Goat versus Fish. A fence that keeps us from our hopes and dreams and inhibits our progress as goat and as fish to versus freely. For this purpose, I lend a hoof across the aisle to create a bipartisan alliance of unification to tear down the fence. This is my pledge to goats, or my name isn't Wow Mom. Celebration!
Celebration!
And it was written.
Celebration for goats!
Celebration!
Woohoo! Yay!
Celebration for Goat indeed. That was a very powerful versus, a very confident versus by the Supremo Goat Wow Mom in the estimation of Goat versus Fish. Wow Mom is really doing politics here on Goat versus Fish. Wow Mom is rallying. You could hear at least 200 goats there in the crowd. Excellent production value here on Wow Mom. Declaring that one a versus a fish always versus the fish. There was an extension towards the fish to form a unification to take down the fence, Even after all of the declaration of verses, the fence sitter, the fence establishment, was still notificationed as the largest impedance to future verses of Goat versus Fish. So Wow Mom really wants to versus the fish and wants to really rally all the goats to versus the fish. But how will the goat respond? How will the goat respond to this versus? Do the goats support Wow Mom in this versus? We see celebration from Psychic Buckeye 12, who appreciations Wow Mom the goats versus. Joy Evil says, don't let the goats tell you you can't have your seaweeds. We don't think that's what we heard in that speech from Wow Mom, but the fish are going to interpretation that versus in any way they wish. And as a matter of versus, Joy Evil is the cod parent of the fish, and we do not believe we received a video from Joy Evil. Joy Evil, do you have a rebuttal to this goat versus? Do you have a statement in the Discord that we can read in response? Or do you have a versus of your own? Do you have a versus of your own? We have yet to hear from the fish. You let us know how we respond to the fish. We want to do an informal poll here, an informal testing of the verses here. Goat, does Wow Mom the Supremo Goat? Do you endorse this verses? Are the goat in solidarity with one another? Now, what the goat feel in private about Wow Mom and what they're having in conversations behind closed fences, we may not know, but we may know what they choose to say here in the congregation at the biggest crowds ever recorded. Ryborg says the fence will stand. The fence sitter does not seem impressed by Wow Mom's admonition of the fence and declaration that goat and fish could form a unification, at least for the provisional verses of tearing down the fence. I Can Fix Amber Heard got an email today saying my Patreon didn't go through. Does that mean I'm banned forever? Oh, you only wish. The fence sitter only wishes they could play the victim as such. How about you just get your verses together and continue being a unification congregation member of Goat versus Fish? How about you do that instead of playing victim on Goat versus Fish? We're tired of the fence sitter playing victim. We're tired of victim politics. I Can Fix Amber Heard. We're tired of it. Joy Evil says, I was not aware I had homework. I don't have a prepared video, but I can give bubbles. It's not homework. It's called solidarity with your fellow fish. It's called being a leader, Joy Evil. It's called being a leader. None of this was anything you had to do. We did request that you create some sort of opening statement for fish. And now you're complaining about homework. Fish, your leader is complaining about homework. The fish is offering bubbles. The fish is offering bubbles in response. There is no video prepared. Whether you submit a video to Goat versus Fish, whether you submit text to Goat versus Fish, it is up to you. This is the versus of politics. It's about winning the support of your fellow goat and fish. Even the fence sitter I Can Fix Amber Heard says, wow, Mom did amazing. And BBDH187 is eating both goat and fish and is a fish themselves. Fish, you've got to get your verses together. If Joy Evil can't compete in the political arena with the Supremo Goat Wow Mom, then how are they going to triumph in the verses? Fish, flat-footed, goat, taking this verses. That's a verses for goat. Joy Evil, if you wish to craft a response, video or in text, an official declaration, we will take your official declaration. When you are ready to give your official response, you just type official declaration and you give your official declaration, or you record audio or you record a video to Goat vs. Fish. But it's time to get into the news. It's time to get your information. Yes, if you support Goat vs. Fish News, join the Patreon of Goat vs. Fish for $5, $10, or $20 American dollars a month. It's difficult to get your true information. You can't trust the news sources out there that are supported by fence-vertisements that cloud their judgment, that cloud their objectivism. But you can objectify Goat vs. Fish, and you can support the information of Goat vs. Fish at patreon.com/Goat vs. Fish. So let's get into the verses. We will start off with our top verses, Goat and Fish. The great Goat GRAZE is back. Yes, Goat and Fish. The Goat Ham Great Goat GRAZE is back. In New York, we saw last year on Goat vs. Fish News, several goats compete in the Great Goat GRAZE. Some of those goat have become favorites of the congregation. And now they return, an annual competition in which goats compete to eat pervasive weeds and other greens and grasses to see who can consume more. And in this capitalistic system, a versus of which goat can do the most consumption is a very apt versus. So let's look at the situation. Goat versus Fish. Thanks for an amazing Goat Ham. And congratulations to second-time champ Malamar. Well, there's your information. Malamar has won the verses 2 times in a row. Malamar, the defending GOAT champion, Riverside Parks. And we love that this is happening once again at Riverside Park. You can get a lot of goat together to have their own little verses, but they're going to do it by the river, by the side of the river where there are fish. The goat are showing off against the fish. They're consuming in front of the fish. The goat are showing we can eat, we can bleat, and we can consume more than any fish. The Riverside Park goats are back and hungrier than ever. Thank you to everyone who joined us for Gotham 2026, the Great Goat GRAZE, where 3 tenacious, invasive plant-eating goats went hoof to hoof in New York's most anticipated competitive eating event. We thought there were more goats last verses. Were there more than 3 goats last verses in the competition? Hosted by George Shea of Major League Eating, best known for Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest. Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest is indeed perhaps one of the most high-profile consumption events, at least here in Verse America. So it is nice to know that the goat are being given equal or better treatment for their most critical goat grazing competition. And here are the goats. Here are some pictures of the situation. They are all gathered. Some of them are behind the fence, as our fence leader would say. Not the leader of Goat vs. Fish, but the leader of the fence creatures. They're in the black or white house, building fences around themselves for your protection, of course. Here we have the goats. 3 goats in competition, and they are Romeo, Malamar, and Big Buddy. Now, we have already been told that Malamar has won the verses, but let's read a bit more about these goats. Who was in the competition? Romeo, returning to Riverside Park for their 4th stint. Romeo is your forever best friend. He wants your hugs and a snuggle at night. He knows he can't solve all the world's troubles, but he'll be by your side through it all. These are some of the constituents of Goat. Malamar, our returning champion, a staple in Riverside Park, herd year after year, is unwavering in his loyalty and courage. He might not be the loudest of the bunch, but his calm, steadfast nature provides security for those surrounding him who know he will always have their back. He's returning to the GRAZE to defend his champion title. And Big Buddy, there's Big Buddy there in the yellow circle. Specially selected by the volunteers at Riverside Park's Jenny's Garden, Big Buddy is an alpine goat who hails from Red Hook, New York. Though he might be new, all of these goats, like they might be something. Romeo, he can't solve all the world's problems. Malamar, he might not be the loudest goat. Big Buddy, though he might be new. What's with all this fronting of... It almost sounds like a lack of confidence among these goats. Why not just... Maybe it's strategic weakness. Trying to show underestimation. The goats in their competition with one another are trying to show, oh, you don't have to worry about me. Oh, you can take it easy on me. I can't even solve all the world's problems. Oh, I'm not your biggest threat. I'm not even the loudest. I'm just new. I'm just new to this versus. This is a strategy. This is a strategy to catch you fish slipping. When a goat approaches a fish and says, I can't solve all the world's problems, they are trying to lure the fish into a false sense of security. Did you hear in Wow Mom's speech that Wow Mom couldn't solve all the world's problems? No. Wow Mom, the Supremo Goat, is here to solve every versus, is here to tear down the fence, and is here to versus the fish. That's a goat. That's a direct goat. Not like these goats. Not like these rope-a-dope goats. Rope-a-dope goats. And Lucid Nap will snuggle with Romeo. You've got a snuggler. We've got some snuggle buddies here in the congregation. And Sun Unknown wants to know, are you fish or are you fish? Big Buddy, though he might be new, he is ready to vie for the championship. This is excellent writing. Title with his hoof-tastic grazing skills. Okay, now it's getting a bit indulgent. Incredibly tall in stature and spirit, Big Buddy is convinced he may actually be part giraffe. Wait a versus. We thought this was a competition for goats. Goats, are you allowing part fence sitters into your competition? Are you allowing part giraffes into your competition? What are you going to do next? Invite fish into your goat grazing competition? Now you're inviting part giraffes? Wow, Mom, what is your statement on this? Goats, what do you say? What do you say? And hey, Lysergic Freak Fish, hey to Goat versus Fish. Hey from Goat versus Fish, and here are some glorious pictures of goats doing goat things. Celebration for goat, celebration for goat. Goats with consumption. Look at these healthy goats. Goats standing on one another's back. That fence can't contain them. The goat can use teamwork to escape the fence. And there's a goat on a log. Celebration for goat on a log. The fence has been torn down. The fence has been torn down. Celebration for goat. Celebration for goat. Celebration for goat. Why goats? Now, this is a philosophical question. Oh, my verses. Hell's Heroes 2027 is announced and early bird ticks are available. Celebration, celebration, celebration. Celebration. That's some news indeed. Critical verses. Critical verses. Critical versus Hell's Heroes 2027 has been announced and early bird tickets are available. But is a bird a goat or a fish? But is a bird a goat or a fish? Is a bird a goat or a fish? Goat versus fish needs to know this. Goat versus fish needs to know this. Goat versus fish needs to know this. Videos of goat versus fish. Videos of goat versus fish. Let's move these verses. Higher, higher in the verses, higher in the verses. Yes. Critical verses. Early fish gets the verse. Why goats? Yes, the Gotham Goat Grazing Competition is here to answer your existential questions about existence. As part of our woodland restoration initiative, Riverside Park Conservancy has spent countless hours of volunteer and staff time over the last 15 years to control invasive species. Unfortunately, it has been difficult to make progress in areas with steep slopes. That's because fish are learning to climb. The invasive fish are invading the land of the goat using new climbing technologies and mud-skipping genetic advancements. Goat are not safe from fish. Not safe from fish, not even on the slopes. Some of the species of plant that have proven to be most difficult to control are the porcelain berry, English ivy, mugwort, multiflora rose, and poison ivy, among several other species. Magnification. Magnification for goat versus fish. Can we get some magnification for goat versus fish? We want you to be able to read the verses too. Goat versus fish. There's some more. There's some superior magnification. Yes. That's a versus. No, don't not show us the picture of the goat, please. Unfortunately, it has been difficult to make areas of progress with steep slopes. Some of the species of plant have proven the most difficult to control. Yes. Riverside Park's goats are like a herd of full-time professionals weeding staff. Yes, Beodin 420 of the fish is often consuming of the weed, but goat are giving them a versus for that. They're able to traverse difficult, hard-to-reach places and can also gulp down poison ivy without a second thought. There are poisonous fish out there. There's the stonefish, notably, taking on the moniker of the land of the goat. But these goat have a stomach for consuming poison, and they're going to survive and thrive through that consumption. Yes, they are. This frees up human hands to toil and labor for the Church of Goat versus Fish, and significant portions of time to work on other components of restoration. Celebration. And here's a before and after verses. Look at what goats have done. Look at what these goats have done to clear the verses. Now, we don't like how they cleared the verses just so they could put a fence up there. Are you abusing the labor of goat here on 143rd Street? Abusing the labor of goat so you can clear a verses just so you can put up a fence? Just so you can put up another fence? That's not what the goat signed up for. The goat just signed up for delicious consumption, and now you're building fences just so you can build your fences. The labor of goat is being exploited. The exploitation of goat, this simply cannot continue. The goat have been exploited for long enough for your fancy projects. We need more goat and fish infrastructure, but not in the form of fence. Not in the form of fence. We need high-speed tail for goat. We need high-speed tail for fish. We want to see some serious construction across Verse America that will facilitate the verses of goat and fish. Not more fences, not more fences. So beware, goat and fish. We know, goat and fish, you have to survive out there. It's a fancy system. You need your Verse American dollars. And so when a goat is offered a whole bunch of greens to consume, we do not blame you for taking it. But this is a larger versus. We cannot allow the labor exploitation to continue just in the name of building of fences. And Trixbin has redeemed a rump shake of goat versus fish. And it was written, and it was written. And the verses. The rump shake has been provided. This just in, Critical Verses. Your favorite news anchor, live, rump shaking on air, goat and fish. Well, that is congratulations to Champion Malamar, to our new old returning champion Malamar, who triumphed in this verses of consumption. So let it be verses. You may not be the loudest of the bunch, but you could still triumph. You could still triumph. Oh, my verses. Oh, my verses. We need to make a hotkey for that verses. We need a hot one. Great. Go to GRAZE off. Yes. That's that verses. Can we get any more information? No, that's the same verses. That's the same verses. We want some more information. We want some more information on this. Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. Oh, that's all just the same verses. Sometimes you find news on other sources, and really they're just reporting on the same old verses, Congratulations to Malamar. Malamar, please accept an interview from Goat vs. Fish. We want to know your stance on fish. We want to know your stance on the fish. Goat and fish. Sometimes the city can be a fancy place, filled with fence creatures, goat and fish, who come from all over the verses to unification together in some sort of harmonious living situation. But occasionally the fancy elements of city living start to infiltrate upon the lives of honest, hard-versing goat and fish. Yes, some may call it art, but can you really say that these verses are art, No, Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish finds these fancy depictions a stain upon the civilization of goat and fish. Why, look at this. Here we have a verses of Pam the bird. There upon what appears to be two gleaming towers. We hope nothing happens to those two towers. We hope nothing fancy happens to those two towers over there. And you can see here in Australia, a giant fence creature has been graffitied all over these towers. From the Bolt Bridge. It's not enough. Yes, the fence. Once you allow a fence, you convert the fence, you lay it sideways. You lay down the fence, you turn it into a bridge, and you say, listen, at least we've made the fence versatile. We've made the fence a piece of infrastructure that the goat and fish can use to travel from land to land, and the fish can still swim beneath it. But no, the fence sitter's not satisfied. The fence sitter is not satisfied. The fence sitter must continue to mark the territory, try to claim it for the fence. Try to claim it all for the fence. And there is this giant illustration of Pam the bird, but the civilization's not having it. Civilization is not having it. Let's go back and get some context on this verses. The artist for Pam the bird was already arrested several weeks ago. So let's go to 9 News Australia from 3 weeks ago, where this saga began. Let's catch up on this verses, shall we?
Pam the bird graffiti vandal has been arrested by police after a tense high-rise standoff on the Bolte Bridge. He scaled one of the bridge's towers and then made some bizarre demands. Let's go live now to our crime reporter, Gillian Land.
Oh, we expect the fence sitter would make bizarre demands, having nothing to do with the verses.
So how did this all unfold, Jill?
Well, this went on for 9 hours. It was about 2:15 in the morning. A Transurban worker noticed a trespasser on the Bolte Bridge. So that really sparked this big, tense standoff. So we had the water police, we had critical incident response units there, and it took...
Better a standoff than a sit-off.
9 hours for Pam the bird vandal to finally surrender and give up. He came out with the...
Giving up where the land meets the sea, of course. The fence sitter can't help but go to where the land meets the sea, as they crave the verses of goat versus fish, even as they reject choosing goat or fish.
Hands up, police searched him. They had tasers ready but didn't need to use them. He went out peacefully.
Didn't need to use them? What is this, Verse America? Oh, they didn't need to use tasers? Wow, what restraint they're showing. These fence creatures, what restraint they're showing these vandals. That's not how we'd handle it in Verse America. Why, in Verse America, this Pam the bird graffiti vandal would probably already be 6 verses under. Celebration for the Australian restraint.
But while he was up there, allegedly painting Pam the bird, he started posting on...
Allegedly?
...social media rather than speaking to police. So he made some pretty bizarre
It
demands.
looks like, do you see this
rather
verses?
than speaking to police. So
what could they possibly be writing? What could the fence sitter possibly be writing up there? Why does it say, is it going to say, fence you? Some kind of big message for all of civilization. What could it be? What wise verses could this fence sitter be wanting to say to everyone who passes by the bridge?
He made some pretty bizarre demands. I'll run you through those right now, Brett.
I want a peanut butter and jam sandwich.
Sounds reasonable to goat versus fish. Sounds very reasonable to goat versus fish. So far, for a fence sitter anyway. Peanut butter and jam sandwich. We could hear a goat or a fish requesting that.
And a glass of milk.
Reasonable versus again. Reasonable versus again. Goat milk, perhaps? You want some goat milk?
Or I'm not coming down. I'm not coming down until they lower the taxes. I'm sick of paying that.
Fairly.
So it's about taxation. It's about taxation after all. It's about taxation after all. Lower the taxes, lower the taxation on who? Lower the taxation on goat or lower the taxation on the fish? Lower the taxation on the fence? Yes, goat versus fish. We have taxation, but what is the representation? Some say we should lower the taxes on the goat and fish, but we should raise it on the fence. We should raise it on the fence. The fence sitters are just hoarding all of their accumulations and not giving back to the verses of goat versus fish. Fence sitters hoarding their accumulations and not giving back to the verses of goat versus fish. Yes, there was a time when the fence sitters could have been argued to have made some form of contribution. There was a time when the fence sitters would make large contributions to the civilization of goat versus fish so they could have their name on a poster board, or so they could have their name on a garden wall, or so they could have their face plastered over everything. There was a time when fence sitters, even in their vanity, would make contributions to goat versus fish so that they could have large pictures and names of themselves everywhere in order to receive some sort of recognition that they so desperately crave. But in recent verses, we have not seen that. We have not seen that from the fence sitters in recent verses. They're hoarding the verses. They're hoarding the verses for themselves. Let us increase taxation on the fence sitters and lower it for the hard-versing goat and fish. So, fence sitter, we think you need to be a bit more specific in your demands. Do you want to lower the taxes on goat? Do you want to lower them on fish? Although, if you want a peanut butter and jam sandwich and a glass of milk, we will honor that, because as a devout versus in the Church of Goat versus Fish, at Church of Goat versus Fish, !church, we know that those who request hydration and consumption shall be granted it by the verses of Goat versus Fish. So Goat versus Fish will honor that verses. Surely will honor that verses. But as for a reduction in taxation, how about this? We'll reduce your taxation. You should take it up with Joy Evil, the COD parent, and Wow Mom, the Supremo Goat, about lowering taxation. Let's ask Wow Mom. Make some noise if you support the lowering of taxation in a completely abstract sense without any declaration of who it's for. Or if you do not, we want to hear from Joy Evil, and we want to hear from Wow Mom. We want to hear from the whole congregation.
Random demands there. And of course that led to a whole...
Random demands? Hydration and consumption are required for all goat and fish, Even the fence sitter needs to eat. Even the fence sitter needs to hydrate. They don't seem random at all to goat versus fish. They sound hungry.
Of holding up the traffic and the huge use of emergency services.
Oh, we wouldn't want to hold up the traffic. Goat versus fish implores you, the congregation, why aren't you going above freeways? Safety first, of course, safety first. And making big pictures of goat, making big pictures of fish, making big displays of goat versus fish. Could we versus for a peanut butter and jam sandwich today? How about you versus for a peanut butter and jam sandwich and a glass of milk today?
Now he's in custody. What happens next?
Well, the man
in
custody is 22-year-old Yarraville man Jack Gibson Burrell. So he he's pleaded not guilty to more than 200 charges of other graffiti across the city. We know that there's been a spate of this PAM the bird all across.
Got swifty moves.
Melbourne. So he will face a trial for that later down the track. But right now he is being questioned by a detective. So he hasn't been charged for this latest offence just yet. But
are the questions, are you goat or fish?
I guess what's next is when will this be cleaned up? And unfortunately, the taxpayer will have to foot the bill.
Absolutely, got a graffiti.
Oh, unfortunately, the taxpayer will have to foot the bill. That's an interesting versus. We thought they wanted lower taxation. The fence sitter, in their quest to lower the taxation, is now increasing the burden on the common taxpayer. Oh, the fence sitter wants to lower taxes, and they're just increasing the tax burden on the common goat or fish. That's the fence sitter. They think that they can arrive at the solution, but in trying to arrive at their solution, they just creation more pollution. I Can Fix Amber Heard decrees lower taxations overall and free jam sandwiches. The Holy Day Temple of Mondays, however, it is the fish and goat that will have increased tax to pay for the jam sandwiches for the fenced. Well, that's not lower taxation overall. Already the fence sitter cannot be true to their verses. But the verses continue here on Goat vs. Fish, because it is already now several weeks later. We have a new verses. They're finally removing that fancy graffiti.
10,000 of you signed a petition to keep her, but Pam the bird is officially flying the coop.
And you can see the fence. You can see the fence there in the shot. It's fence on fence on fence. 10,000 goat and fish wanted to keep this fence creature hovering above their city. Oh, my verses. It makes you question whether subversialization is even worth versing for when 10,000 goat or fish want to keep this ugly, hideous, totally uncharming in any way, and a nuisance upon subversialization. Now, we can also say that this giant pillar of fence going into the sky isn't exactly what Goat vs. Fish would call beautification. So maybe just throw a fence creature on there. Reveal it for what it is. Maybe Goat vs. Fish is repondering this. Maybe keep the fence creature on there. It is a fence. Fence creatures stay on the fence. Fence creatures stay on the fence. Why not beautification this versus with goat or fish, though? That's the real versus. Put a giant mural of Goat vs. Fish. It should say GOATVSFISH going right down the verses.
An elaborate cleanup mission to paint over the Pam the bird at the Balti Bridge is underway. The graffiti tag has been perched 140 metres high on top of the eastern pylon here at the Balti for 6.
We think these cleanup artists are probably goats. Look at this climbing they're doing. Look at this climbing. Look at this climbing. Can we get someone like that? Hey, can you be temple sweeps for Goat vs. Fish? We've got some temple cleaning that we need done.
16 days now. This cleanup will cost 6 figures, confirmed by toll and road operator Transurban, who are going to be fully funding this paint job. Some estimates say it will cost up to $200,000. And
wow, a public service. Wow, a public services. So if Goat vs. Fish, here's what we do, Goat and Fish. Here's what we do. We paint a giant Goat vs. Fish somewhere out there in the universe. And then, Goat and Fish, you creation a specialized cleanup division, and then the city hires the Goat vs. Fish cleanup division that specializes in cleaning up Goat vs. Fish to clean up Goat vs. Fish. We get the benefit of a giant image of Goat vs. Fish. We get Goat vs. Fish on the news, and then Goat vs. Fish can receive those sweet taxpayer dollars by hiring the congregation to clean up the verses. That sounds like Goat vs. Fish. That sounds like Goat vs. Fish.
according to Transurban boss Peter Monroe, they've had to hire absolute specialists to get this paint job done. First, the team will make the 40-minute internal climb to the top of the pylon, and there they'll work
just get some goats. They'll climb it on the outside.
with rope access experts before abseiling down the side to start painting over Pam the bird. And this is going to be a multi-day mission. It's going to look patchy at first because today is just the base coat, but Transurban said they're going to
Base goat.
Keep painting over Pam until she's gone for good. It's a 200 square metre section that they have to cover, about 15 car spaces. Transurban said this will be like painting a house 100 metres up in the air. But why paint? Why not just pressure wash her off? Transurban said they
Yeah, why not? Tell us about that. Tell us about the answer to that question that you just posed.
wanted to protect the Yarra River below from nasty cleaning chemicals, so they opted for paint.
Celebration for fish, celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. The fish are cheering, the fish are cheering this decision. The fish are cheering this decision. Unlike certain reflecting pools who are being handled without any care whatsoever, here they're thinking of the fish. They're thinking of the fish. At least these taxpayer dollars are going towards the protection of the fish. They don't want all these fancy chemicals, fence sitters depicted with fancy chemicals, washed into the sea of the fish. They're taking their time removing this fancy graffiti, and fish, it is for your own protection. And Joy Evil Bubbles. Bubbles in support of that versus. Fenciness. Look at it. They just can't help. This is how you know the fence stream media is biased, because any chance they get, they're going to show you subliminal fence messaging. Like, ooh, look at this fence. Look at this fence. Oh, you want to see a beautiful patch of sky? No. Fence, 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 fence. Jam sandwich crumbs would have been nice, though. That would be nice for fish.
And what about that petition? More than 9,500 of you signed a petition to keep Pam up in her nest, but
They inflated the fancy verses. They said 10,000. Now they say 9,500. They're inflating support for the fence sitter. All the support for this fancy art. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that dramatic zooming they did there? Watch this once more.
And what about
Here we are. Here we are. Focusing on the fence in front, and watch as the focus shifts to Pam the bird here.
that petition? More than 9,500 of you signed a petition to keep Pam up in her nest, but
Ooh, very fancy maneuvering. Very fancy maneuvering. Very fancy maneuvering indeed. Are we watching Christopher Nolan, or are we watching the Australian news?
Transurban this morning said they didn't even consider it. Back on July 7, the alleged vandal had an 8-hour standoff with police after bypassing security to get up there and spray Pam onto the side of the pylon. He was hit with a series of new charges on top of the already more than 200 existing charges against him for a series of Pams across Melbourne.
A series of Pams across Melbourne? A series of Pams? Wait a versus. This is not the only instance of fencery that we found? Melbourne Pams. Wikipedia, Pam the bird. Oh my verses. Oh my verses. It's got a whole verses here. Pam the bird is a graffiti tag that has appeared widely throughout Melbourne since at least 2023. A cartoon bird, Pam the bird, has gained widespread fame for its abundance and high profile locations, from buildings and freeway signs to heritage-listed sites. Oh, my verses. So since September of 2022, we have seen Pam the bird spray painted all over the verses. So we've got Jimothy spray painted everywhere. We've got Pam the bird everywhere. Are we going to, what is this now going to be, Jimothy versus Pam the bird? False verses, false verses. False verses. This graffiti will not stand. This graffiti will not stand. Can we please, for the love of goat versus fish, get more artful images of goat and fish throughout the city, which is indeed part of a larger goat versus fish beautification project, because having all of these birds everywhere, having all these Pam the fence sitters everywhere, they are ruining the constitutional fabric of our civilization, But versely, they're cleaning it all up. Versely, they are cleaning it all up. Let's have a look at just one more verses here about Pam the bird. One more verses as the cleanup continues.
Pam's gaze over the Balti Bridge is ending, but the removal takes far longer than the install. Days compared to hours, 12 people compared to 1.
Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. The fence sitter will just get out there and just ruin everything. Just ruin everything. It's easy for a fence sitter. It's easy to try to fence up goat versus fish, to just throw a fence into the hard verses of goat and fish. And what now? It takes 12 goat and fish coming together just to clean up the fenciness? Goat and fish, it's easy. It's easy. It's so easy, they think, to sit on the fence, but it's not easy. It's easy to make a mockery of the verses of goat versus fish, but at the cost of your very internal verses, at the cost of inner conflict and sadness and self-deception. And self-deception. There is far more confidence and verses to be gained by coming together to rid the verses of fenciness than there ever was in trying to promote the false verses of bird versus bear here in Australia.
They're keeping an eye on it from the Transurban control room.
This is 140 metres from the base here, so it's a significant climb. Our teams actually take about 40 minutes to walk up the stairs to get to the top.
Once there, they'll abseil back down, spending most of the day preparing the
verses. What was written on the top of the verses there?
To get to the top.
Once there, they'll...
What the verses? They're spending... Do you see this goat and fish? We thought that's what we saw. They're trying to clean the giant Pam the bird. But what about this verses? What about this verses? What about this Pam? What about this Pam here? There's a Pam still mocking you from the side of the fence. You want to spend... What's this grift? You want to spend how many 6 figures of your Australian dollars to clean up Pam the bird, and you're not even cleaning up the Pam that's right there for you to... That's right there. There's a Pam right there. There's a fence creature right there that you're not cleaning up. Oh, shoddy work. Very shoddy verses indeed. Shoddy verses indeed. What are our tax dollars paying for? And you want to increase taxation? Decrease taxation? Maybe we should decrease taxation if you're going to be doing sloppy verses like this.
Abseil back down, spending most of the day preparing the surface to paint over.
Today we would put in the primer coat on, so when motorists go home today in the afternoon, they'll see a big white patch over the top of it.
They'll also see one inbound lane closed, Transurban using it as a safety barrier in case something falls. The weather plays a big role here. It needs to be at least 10 degrees for the paint to hold and then dry, which pretty much rules out any work overnight. There's also patchy rain in the area. More showers are forecast on Saturday. They said no to washing off the graffiti, worried chemicals might leak into the river.
Was there a consideration as to just leaving it there?
No, it's not something we considered at all. We take our obligations for graffiti removal really seriously, and we want to make sure the city looks great.
200 square metres, about the same as a 3-bedroom home. They'll do their best to colour match, and Transurban will pay for it all, up to $200,000. Lake Johnson, 7 News.
Wow, it's very interesting to see a civilization that actually cares about itself and wants it to look...
someone wrote in...
Silence! That cares about itself and wants it to look beautiful. Now, granted, in this versus beautiful Australia, there's going to be a big grey tower coming out of a bridge that interrupts what otherwise would be a beautiful skyline. But it's actually nice to hear the goat and fish from down under taking, at least in theory, the concept of city beautification more seriously. We could use more of that attitude here in Verse America. You'd take $1 million to clean up Pam if it meant I didn't have to clean up Pam too? We think you might. We think you might too. We think you might too. Path Test says Australia has declared a cultural war on us. If Australia versus America is a cultural war, who is the goat and who is the fish? That was Pam the bird. That was Pam the bird. And Joy Evil now says in the Discord of Goat versus Fish, in the fish category, there's some sort of response to Goat versus Fish. Joy Evil, you say you posted a segment of it, the historical fish document in the Fish channel. We're looking in the Fish channel. We see some sort of... The verses is this. Some sort of... Some sort of copywritten material, no doubt. We don't think Goat versus Fish can cover this verses.
my dear.
Oh, thank you.
We've got fish. We've got fish. We've got, my verses. Celebration more fish. Celebration more fish. Celebration more dancing fish and animation fish. Now, Goat and Fish, this is an illustration we can support. Pam the Bird, get the fence out of here. Why do Pam the Bird when you could have beautiful pictures of fish, when you could have beautiful pictures of fish like this? We want beautiful pictures of fish like this. This is true art. Pam the Bird, Pam the Bird. That's why we're calling it graffiti, not true art. Pam the Bird, false art. This is the art of Goat versus Fish. This is the art of fish. This is the art of fish. Celebration more fish. Celebration more fish. Thank you for this information. Thank you for this information. And Goat versus Fish. The Goat versus Fish news continues. So what about those fish? What about those fish? What about those fish? Goat and Fish, we say here in the congregation of Goat versus Fish that those who are hungry will be fed. But some are not satisfied with a mere morsel. Some want more. Some want more. And this is especially true in the case of fish. The 1% Club winner sets fish finger eating record. Posted just 10 hours ago. Goat versus Fish is bringing you the versus new. Truly the versus new. And where the versus is this, where it's brought to you by the BBC. And look at their satisfaction. A man, be they goat or fish, has broken a world record for eating 15 fish fingers in 60 seconds after making the promise on a game show. Nathan Davies, 32, from West Houghton, Bolton, claimed the Guinness World Record title for scoffing the most fish fingers in a minute after vowing to do so to Lee Mack, the host of ITV's The 1% Club. The dad of two who took home £98,000 after winning the show said, "He always has 20 fish fingers in the freezer, so I thought that one sounded achievable." Davies said he believed he could have eaten much more if he had been able to let them cool down, adding, "I'm just happy to have the record." So let's watch it. Let's watch some scarfing of fish. Here we go. Fish, world record fish consumption.
I've got a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. I've always got 20 fish fingers in the freezer, so I thought that one sounds achievable. Because some of them are ridiculous. Like, I'm not trying to eat the most strawberries blindfolded with no hands and stuff like this. So it was like, fish fingers. They're bland. They're not horribly chewy. That sounds all right. Don't cook them so they're crispy. That wouldn't be ideal.
You've got them all in like a sort of big Tupperware bowl, and you just sort of wolf them in.
Yeah, unfortunately, because you're not allowed to any sauce. You're not allowed any hands. You got to use a fork, which I thought was quite.
Oh, what? When fish eat other fish, do you see them using forks? No. When fish eat fish, they just go straight for the fish. They go straight from fish to fish, and we've seen goat eating fish too. So you were able to win this world record by using some sort of fancy utensil. Goat versus Fish would like to see you achieve this record. You could probably do it faster. Just without the fence. Get rid of the fence. Just go straight for the fish.
For a world record attempt, but you then got to film all of it, and because they're adjudicated, I thought it's got to be a clear Tupperware, because otherwise they're going to tell me I've swapped the fish fingers out if they can't see it.
Wow.
We wouldn't want any deception like that. Davies, who works as a project manager, told BBC Radio Manchester when he decided to apply to be a contestant on the 1% Club that he had only ever watched the ITV quiz show once before, adding his brother would often send him the questions. And do the questions include the one true question? Quotation, "I thought I'm not the world's most exciting person." Here's that verses again. Here's that verses again that we saw in the Goat Great Consumption Contest. All of this modesty among the Goat and Fish. I thought, I'm not the world's most exciting person. I need to come up with something that's going to stand out. Well, at least you're making something of yourself. At least you're making something of fish. What's going to stand out? Fish. Goat and fish are going to stand out. You're going to get noticed with goat and fish. Because usually people have got something a bit ridiculous or a bit out there to say about themselves. So I thought, well, I can eat. Celebration. I'll say I'll do a world record in that sense. And so there we have it. Here is our proud champion. Congratulations. Congratulations for fish. Congratulations for fish. Any world record pertaining to goat or fish is newsworthy coverage by GoatVsFish. Celebration. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. So there we have it, goat and fish. While the goat are eating weeds, this 1% winner is eating fish fingers. So, in the universe, goat versus fish, as we say, goat versus fish is always happening. The broader lesson here isn't just about a world record for eating a bunch of fish. The broader versus here is to explanation to you that you've got goat, weed eating, you've got fish stick, fish finger eating. They're both happening. They're both weeding. They're both bleeding. The consumption is all around us. The goat versus fish is all around us. Now, the news will try to separation these stories from you, try to tell you that the universe is full of distinct things, like there's goat over here, and there's fish over here, and they're each having their own eating competitions, but there's no relation to one another. But this is negligent reporting. It takes goat versus fish news to give you the true synthesis of this information, to give you the full context you need to understand what's really going on out there in your communities. And what it is that goat are eating, fish are eating, but who's going hungry? Who's going hungry? The fence sitter. The fence sitter. The fence sitter is the only one out there we see complaining about wanting a sandwich and wanting a glass of milk. And the Church of Goat versus Fish will provide these verses. All are welcome to Goat versus Fish. But know this, when the goat wants consumption, they have plenty to eat. They have weeds to eat. They have entire consumption competitions, and so do fish. Fish stick eating competitions. Do you see these goat and fish complaining that they have a lack of consumption? No. They're making records. They're winning competitions about it. The fence sitter, when they get hungry, what do? They climb 1 billion verses in the air and paint a giant illustration of a false fence creature there for all to see, just so they can ask for a fencing sandwich. All you have to do is come to the Church of Goat versus Fish. We'll give you a fencing sandwich. We'll give you a glass of hydration. We'll give you a goat milk sandwich and a peanut butter and jam glass of peanut butter and jam. Goat versus Fish will give you a glass of peanut butter and jam and a milk sandwich. But the fence sitter cannot just simply humbly ask for these verses, can they? No, so many fence sitters, they have no humility in these verses. The goat and fish have humility. The goat says, oh, I'm not the loudest goat. Oh, I'm a new goat. I'm a new goat. And this fish consumer says, oh, I'm not the most interesting fish in the verses. Not the most interesting fish in the verses. But the fence sitter, in all their brazen confidence, says, I am up here on top of the fence. I am painting Pam the bird everywhere and anywhere just so I can get my sandwich. As you can see, that's how it be. We've got the very civilized, very cultured, bellies full of nutrition, goat and fish, and you have the whining, complaining, degenerate, unartistic, solipsistic, self-obsessed fence sitters who just want to put their mark upon everything they possibly can just so they can get a sandwich of jam that they could just have easily gotten by simply asking goat versus fish, to which goat versus fish would ask them the one true question, are you goat or are you fish? It all comes together. It all comes together on Goat versus Fish. It all comes together on Goat versus Fish. It all comes together on Goat vs. Fish. Has anyone seen The Boys, more specifically where the fish superhero, the Deep, eats the octopus Timothy? Goat vs. Fish. We saw The Boys. We saw the fish. We saw the fish. Now, Goat and Fish, this is just a brief. Ooh, Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish. Goat and Fish, let's go to the Instagram and look at some false verses. It is a shame that Goat versus Fish has to bring you the false verses to show you what's really going on out there. So much of news is fence. So much of news is fence. But before we get into that fence, why don't we have a look at what's going on at the church? Since we're speaking of the Church of Goat versus Fish, let's find out what's going on at the Church of Goat versus Fish.
How far is that? How long did I go?
Beautiful verses. Beautiful verses. Beautiful verses from El Hump here at the Church of Goat versus Fish. Follow the Church of Goat versus Fish. And while you're here, Goat and Fish, will you subscribe? Will you subscribe to Goat versus Fish, Church of Goat versus Fish on YouTube? Will you start watching some Church of Goat versus Fish on YouTube? Will you follow Church of Goat versus Fish on TikTok? We're growing the church. We're growing the Church of Goat versus Fish. You may say, well, I already subscribed to Goat versus Fish. Well, subscribe to Church of Goat versus Fish. YouTube.com/ it's like it's not found. We have to say at. Why the fence do we have to say at in this verses? YouTube.com / Church of Goat versus Fish. No wonder we haven't been getting as many subscribers to Church of Goat versus Fish. There you are. Now, Goat versus Fish. Know this, Twitch. We are not allowed to direct viewers to watch a live stream on another platform, but Goat versus Fish isn't live streaming currently on Church of Goat versus Fish. So we can totally direct you to Church of Goat versus Fish. Go and subscribe to Church of Goat versus Fish. The Church of Goat versus Fish. On all social media at Goat versus Fish. So going and looking now. Goat versus Fish. Going looking now. Goat versus Fish. Let's go to the Instagram. Last verses on Goat versus Fish news. We went to the Instagram. And we found that there was some fenciness going on. And we couldn't load up the old verses. But now it seems that perhaps we can. This is a critical verses. Goat versus Fish. Here's a critical verses. Here is a video of Goat versus Fish at the Comedy Store on the Riff Raff. What is happening at this comedy show? Why, let's find out. Let's find out what's happening at this comedy show.
I'll try to get you. Okay. Ready? Yeah. Come on, Billy. Come on. God damn it. Come on, Billy. Put his hands over. Wait, no. Hold on. I was doing...
Celebration for Goat versus Fish at the Comedy Store Los Angeles. Goat versus Fish will link you to that versus if you want to comment on it and say, hey, Why don't you comment on that versus? Why don't you comment on that versus and follow the Riff Raff Comedy Show and be like, wow, great clip of Goat versus Fish. Wow, we always love to see Goat versus Fish in clips like that. How about you do that, Goat and Fish? How about the dear congregation here on Goat versus Fish goes and leaves a commentation there in support of Goat versus Fish? Wouldn't that be a beautiful versus? Wouldn't that be a beautiful versus of support for Goat versus Fish? We think it would. We think it would. Goat and Fish. Goat and Fish! It pains Goat versus Fish. It pains Goat versus Fish to bring you this next versus. It pains Goat versus Fish to bring you this next versus. But out there, would you believe, Goat and Fish, that there are false verses that are backed by huge corporations? As Goat versus Fish is humbly beseeching the congregation for 10 bits, for a subscription, for a Patreon notification for Goat versus Fish. Yes, you know that we will give you only the critical, most objective verses, because Goat versus Fish doesn't have any fence-vertisers spoiling the message of Goat versus Fish. But other false verses, because it is a deception and they want to keep you stupid. They want to keep you engaging in false divisions so you cannot overthrow the fancy tyrants that would oppress you. They want to distract you from Goat versus Fish. They want to distract you from Goat versus Fish with their own false divisions, and they're willing to spend billions and billions of First American dollars to do it. And that's what it takes. It takes billions of First American dollars to promotion of false verses. Because Goat versus Fish is self-evidence. Goat versus Fish is self-evidence. Goat versus Fish is self-evidence. The fancy message can only happen, will only happen with artificial and artigotal support. Let's see what happened. Let's see what happened here. Pepsi? Oh, what's going to happen next? We can only imagine. We can only imagine what's going to happen next. We can only imagine what's going to happen next. And we're not excited. We're not excited about it. We're not excited about it. Oh no. They're getting into it.
And his name is John C.
So you're trying to have a fine little versus of Coke and Pepsi, aren't you? But false verses just invites fence sitters to come in and ruin the verses. So you see here how it's really all just Goat versus Fish. Coke versus Pepsi, they do not have any marketing of their own. They look to Goat versus Fish. They look to Goat versus Fish for their inspiration. And what do? They show you a goat versusing a fish. It's Goat versus Fish. It's Goat versus Fish. You see the drama of Goat versus Fish. You're starting to take sides on Goat versus Fish. And then, surprise, 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 in comes the fence sitter, who is neither goat nor fish, to make the verses all about themselves and to take out both the goat and fish. As the goat and fish are distracted with their own verses, the fence sitter comes to destroy them both. This is a narrative of Goat versus Fish, and this narrative of Goat versus Fish is explored through ancient verses like the Odyssey and through modern verses like Pepsi and Coke and also Dr. Pepper somehow. Goat versus Fish, 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 and the fence sitter. And the fence sitter comes in. When you are looking out there in the universe, when you're watching the news, when you're seeing it all go down, when you're seeing brand promotion like this, know that you heard it from Goat vs. Fish. You heard it from Goat vs. Fish. It's all Goat vs. Fish. Haha, it's so funny. Goat vs. Fish keeps saying Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish insists it's all Goat vs. Fish. We're trying desperately to give you the information. We're trying to give you the education. We are trying to show you that it's all Goat vs. Fish. And here's your evidence. Here, they may call it some other verses, but it's just Goat vs. Fish again. It's just Goat vs. Fish again. And you say, this story, I relation to this story, you say. I get what's going on. I feel it. Yes, the drama, the tension. How can you create drama and tension with such a simple, humble verses? And notice these over here. They're totally not interested in this false verses. They're probably watching the Goat vs. Fish live streams over here. The tension, the drama, ha 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 ha, and the fence sitter. And the fence sitter and the fence sitter. Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish again. Goat versus Fish again. The fence sitter wants to deny Goat versus Fish. The fence sitter wants to deny Goat versus Fish, and we would not be surprised, we would not be surprised, as we begin the Church of Goat versus Fish. Interesting Goat versus Fish news. Yester versus Goat versus Fish spoke with an accountant about getting Goat versus Fish 501c3 non-profit religious organization status. Yes, Goat versus Fish had the conversation with the accountant. And they said, what are your goals, Goat versus Fish? What are your goals? And Goat versus Fish said to feed the hungry and to hydrate the thirsty and to have debate with other spiritual scholars about the validity of Goat versus Fish. And also to give our dear congregation the chance to donate to a worthy verses so they can get tax write-offs. Because if you are going to get a tax write-off or donation to any other church or temple, then you should get one for Goat versus Fish. Then you should get one from Goat versus Fish. This is a totally fair and valid versus. And if they will say no to Goat versus Fish, then Goat versus Fish will say discrimination against Goat versus Fish, because you believe in Goat versus Fish, don't you? Goat versus Fish believes in you. What do you believe in? Goat versus Fish. Do you believe in Goat versus Fish? We think you do. We think you do. We think you do. But there is someone who doesn't believe in Goat versus Fish. There is someone who doesn't believe in Goat versus Fish. There's someone who doesn't. And it's sad to Goat versus Fish. It's sad that they don't believe in Goat versus Fish. There are religions that would deny Goat versus Fish. Japanese religion, whose only rule is saying no and going home. Oh, wait, who's applauding for that? No, who's applauding for that? Who's applauding for that? Motohiro Hisano founded MTOP, short for Motohiro to People, in 2018 at age 19, positioning himself as a humble, powerless deity whose only ability is granting followers the socially useful phrase, quote, for religious reasons. He has openly stated he performs no miracles, seeks no worship, and accepts no financial contributions, describing the project as closer to a satire than an organized religion, unlike Goat versus Fish, which is a true organized religion. Lysergic freak fish, Yagi Tai Sakana. Its teachings compiled in what followers call the R0304 scripture, encouraging refusing unnecessary overtime, encouraging using full paid vacation, taking parental leave, and skipping unwanted obligations like awkward corporate parties. We're starting to like this. A pointed commentary on Japan's demanding overwork culture and its associated term karoshi, meaning death from overwork. Japanese law prohibits workplace discrimination based on religious beliefs, giving the joke a small legal edge. The movement grew from roughly 700 followers when it first featured on Japanese television in 2019 to over 11,000 today, and has also gained a following in South Korea with translated scriptures and roughly 2,000 Korean believers. Well, there you have it, Goat and Fish. Here we have a religion of saying no and going home. If this religion of saying no and going home from a powerless deity can spread to thousands around the verses, then GoatVsFish believes that GoatVsFish can have a simple scripture of GoatVsFish. Now, the verses go deep. The verses go very deep as the sea of the fish, as we know. But a simple scripture of GoatVsFish. They have the R0304 scripture. We have the AYGOF scripture. Say it to GoatVsFish. Say it in the congregation of GoatVsFish. AYGOF, 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 AGOF. AGOF, the AGOF scripture. AYGOF. Are you goat or fish? Are you goat or fish? AYGOF. Are you goat or fish? Where GoatVsFish simply implores you to get off the fence. You are going through your life. You are confronted with a decision. Get off the fence, choose goat or fish. Get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence, choose goat or fish. Get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence, choose goat or fish. Get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence. All of the problems in your existence can be seen as fences for you to overcome by choosing goat or fish. And then once you have chosen goat or fish, then your problem becomes clear. It is a fish you need to versus. It is a goat you need to versus. All of your life will come into focus when you choose goat or fish. It's a simple scripture. GoatVsFish. Yes, we can give you the entertainment of GoatVsFish. Yes, we can give you the church of GoatVsFish. Yes, we can give you the congregation of GoatVsFish. We can give you so many verses. But perhaps the spreading of the verses of GoatVsFish should be a simple verses. Are you goat or fish? Pamphlets that just say, are you goat or fish? And we share them throughout the universe. The simplest way to spread the scripture of GoatVsFish is simply to say goat versus fish. Simply to say goat versus fish. And they will ponder goat versus fish. They will ponder goat versus fish. But won't it be a beautiful verses? Won't it be a beautiful verses when GoatVsFish is recognized as a 501c3 nonprofit religious organization, and you, on your tax returns, can declare GoatVsFish as your religion? Won't that be a beautiful verses? Then we'll see who's really committed to GoatVsFish. So they say no to unnecessary overtime. They say no to, or they support using paid full vacation time. So no to overwork. They support parental leave. They support skipping unwanted, awkward obligations like corporate parties. And so GoatVsFish. They say so much no, but will they say no to GoatVsFish? Will they say no to choosing goat or fish? We wonder if they might. GoatVsFish wonders if by the power of Yagi Vasazusakana, if GoatVsFish could secure an interview with this one to have a conversation about the religion of no. But they might just say no to GoatVsFish. They might just say no. They might just say no. They might just say no. Don't say no to GoatVsFish. Kimi wa Yagi ka sakana desu ka? Ore wa Yagi vs. Sakana de gozaimasu. Saisho kara Yagi vs. Sakana de gozaimashita. Yagi sore tomo Sakana o erabi nasai, erande kudasai. Fensu no ue ni suwaranai de kudasai. Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. The Tuesday News Day continues. The Tuesday News Day continues on Goat versus Fish. Goat and Fish, we are loath to inform you that the fence sitter is developing new technologies. New technologies! Beware, Goat and Fish, as you versus the fence sitter. The fence sitter is doing inconsequential, inhumane, and is a humane a goat or a fish? The fence sitters will stop at nothing to try to gain an edge against the natural strength of goat and fish. The natural strength of goat and fish. Yes, the fence sitter cannot compete with goat and fish directly by the power of their own verses. And so they have invented new technologies. Behold, the fence sitter is trying to go back to its savage and primitive ways. Savage, primitive fence sitters, no. No. Turn back to the civilizing force of goat versus fish. Don't go back. Don't go back in the verses.
Used engineering to turn chickens back into dinosaurs, and even added some improvements along the way. Because chickens used to have dinosaur tails for balance, but if you give them prosthetic tails, they remember how to walk like dinosaurs. So after doing some research with these prosthetic tail specialists...
Wow, I really like your muzzle.
Fence sitters.
What does it say?
Good girl. I was able to design this 3D printed dinosaur tail that automatically shifts its center of gravity when it tilts. And after just a few minutes of updating its firmware,
just get up, okay?
Finally, it gets off the fence. You hear their lack of patience with the fence creature. How long was it sitting there?
You literally told her to get up and...
This chicken was finally able to walk like a dinosaur for the first time in 65 million years.
And look, the tail is adjusting? She doesn't even... It's like she actually doesn't even notice.
Also, I gave it these shoulder-mounted cannons because it...
Ah! They're arming the fence creatures now! They're arming the fence creatures! Oh, it's just for balance, so they say. No, don't worry, we're going to develop some artificial prosthesis, and we're going to use artificial intelligence, and we're going to equip you. It's going to be a superior hand. It's going to be a superior hoof. It's going to help you walk. It's going to help you get around, and that all seems like a fair enough versus, oh, a use for the fence, a use for the fence. An actual use for the fence that could be a benefit to goat and fish. Oh, we're going to use robotics to deliver you your foods. Oh, we're going to use a robot police dog, and it's going to walk around, and we're going to make it look cute. Oh, what is this strange animal trying to be neither goat nor fish? They're arming the fence sitters. They're putting weapons on fence sitters. First, they put tails on the fence creature for increased balance. Then, what do they use that balance for? Not even for balancing on the fence. They use that increased balance so that they can put shoulder-mounted cannons on chickens so that they can bring ruin and destruction to the verses of goat versus fish.
It looks cool. And to shoot predators.
Shoot the coyote!
Because that's how I used engineering.
Because that's how I cleverly loop my reels so that you can watch them over and over and over again. And we could watch that verses over and over again, but we won't, because if we've learned anything from watching goat verses, we love indulging in the verses, but sometimes you got to move on to the next verses. You've got to keep it exciting, goat and fish. You've got to keep it exciting on the news of goat versus fish. There, you saw their weaponizing fence sitters. You saw their weaponizing fence sitters. You heard the verses. You heard the verses. Fish fire. Fish fire! Fish fire burns at least 1,800 acres east of Bakersfield. Evacuation warning issued. Cal Fire. But before we look at the fish fire, we heard from Mike and Fix Amber Heard that they made a comment on this reel. And let's see if they are trying to... But sometimes I can Fix Amber Heard, they make a comment that's like, oh, look at me, I'm being clever and subversive. When really they're just damaging the chances of goat versus fish getting booked on future verses. So let's see if the fence sitter did some self-indulgent anti-goat versus fish propaganda, or if they actually supported goat versus fish. Wow, great clip of goat versus fish. We love to see goat versus fish in the riffraff. Celebration! Celebration! We support that versus. We support that versus. I Can Fix Amber Heard a salutation, an unequivocal salutation to I Can Fix Amber Heard for this glorious comment left. Goat and fish Goat and Fish of the congregation, are you going to let some fence sitter like I Can Fix Amber Heard show you up by leaving a comment for Goat vs. Fish on the Riff Raff Comedy Show? And you're not going to support Goat vs. Fish. You're going to let the fence sitter do all the verses? Come on, Goat and Fish. Come on. Come on. Some say, oh, fish fire. There can't be fish fire. Fish live in the water. There can't be fish fire. But lo and behold, Monday, July 27, 2026, Goat vs. Fish bringing you the news. Fish fire burns at least 1,800 acres east of Bakersfield. That's here in California. Evacuation warnings issued. Fish fire. Editor's note, the story has been clarified. Goat versus Fish. Editor's note, the story has been updated to clarify the details of the incident. Well, that's sort of what the news is supposed to be for, isn't it? Encrypted, welcome to Goat versus Fish. A wildfire burning east. You say that Meta is fence? Have you considered that Twitch is owned by Bezos? Not that we want to stop you from watching Goat versus Fish, but its fence is all the way down. Bakersfield, California. A wildfire is burning east of Bakersfield, has burned approximately 1,800 acres so far. Fire officials say the fire was reported around 12:44 p.m. Monday in the area northeast of Bena and Caliente Bodfish Roads. Oh, more fish. More fish. We thought this was just going to be all about the headline, but caliente, you know that means hot in Cabra Contra Pez. Is it any surprise that there's a fire near hot bodfish roads? That's got to be some kind of sexy fish. Caliente bodfish? Hot bodfish? Hot bodfish? Look at the hot bod on that fish. Look at the hot bod on that fish. Hot bod fish. Hot bod fish. Cal Fire said Monday afternoon the critical railways are under threat and the fire was running upslope. Climbing. A climbing fish fire. Climbing as a goat would. Access for firefighters is limited by the steep terrain. Multiple fire crews have been called to help extinguish the fire, including firefighting aircraft. Check back for updates. Check back for updates. Well, why don't we go and look for some updates? Why don't we go look for some updates? Fish fire, Bakersfield. 20 hours ago, 19 hours ago. Update, fish fire prompts evacuation warnings 1 hour ago. That seems like some recent verses. KGET News. Here we go. Let's get 35 glorious seconds of fish fire news. How about that? Is this evidence that the media is controlled by GOAT? Only 35 seconds devoted towards the fish fire?
We begin this morning with an update on a wildfire burning east of Bakersfield. The so-called fish fire broke out around 12:30 Monday afternoon in the area of Caliente Bodfish and Bena Roads. According to Cal Fire, it has burned about 1,800 acres so far and is about 5% contained.
An evacuation warning is in effect for Genesis zones KRN 455 and KRN 100. If you are not sure what zone you live in, download the Genesis Protect app. It provides emergency alerts directly to your phone so you can be notified about danger wherever you are.
Are fish arsonists? Are fish starting fires? Are fish starting fires on the land of the goat? It's the fish fire, all right. It's the fish fire, all right. Oh, my verses. Okay, we're back in the verses. Are fish arsonists? Are fish starting fish fires out there in the wilderness? The fish fire is occurring on dry goat land near Bodfish Road. Or are the fish merely freedom fighters trying to reclaim their territory? After all, if it's Caliente Bodfish Road, then that is a place named for historically hot fish. When the fish bring the fires back to the land, is this destruction of goat land, or are they merely reclaiming it? Reclaiming it for the versatile fish. In any case, these fish aren't fencing around goat. The verses of Goat versus Fish continues. The fish fire, fish fire. Goat have been known to preemptively stop fires from happening on the land of the goat by chewing upon the dry weeds. There's a lot of fire mitigation going on here in Los Angeles and here in California. The waters of the Sea of the Fish are known not as a preventative but a reactive measure to put out the fires, that are on the land of the goat. But can you even use water to put out a fish fire? How do you put out a fish fire? Do you use the Sea of the Fish? Do you use the Sea of the Fish to put out the fish fire, or will it make the fish fire ever stronger? Goat beware. You have fire-causing fish in your area, causing evacuations on the land of the goat. It's true. As Goat versus Fish heats up and the sea levels rise, surprise, 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 the lands that are not consumed by the rising tides of the fish may be consumed by fish flame, by flaming fish. This is Goat versus Fish. This is Goat versus Fish. The flaming versus. We didn't start the verses. Ashes to ashes. Verse to verse. Goat versus Fish. Here's a headline, Goat and Fish. Here's a headline for you. Fish takes plunge into third royal movie role. Little entertainment news for you. Fish is taking the plunge? Well, we think that fish can succeed. After all, a plunge is a hydration place that the fish can surely swim down in. Royal fish. Joy Evil, what do you say to this? Joy Evil, as the godparent of all the fish, do you support fish making a royal movie in a pool? Fish are plunging into a pool. They're going for kingfish. Bakersfield, California. We're back in Bakersfield again, Goat and Fish. Look at these verses. They must have great SEO. Typical stars of a romantic movie made for a cable channel or a streaming service get one chance to play the character. That means the couple meet, dislike each other, find a mutual connection, realize they're made for each other, and have a joyful ending. Rhiannon Fish. What a name. Rhiannon Fish. Rhiannon Fish has gone through all those levels of movie matchmaking, but has the luxury of dealing with each step in multiple productions. In 2022, she filmed the lead in the role for Great American Family, A Royal in Paradise, where she played a struggling romance writer who meets and falls in love with a prince during a tropical getaway. Sounds very, very, very romantic. Sounds very fish fulfillment fantasy. 2 years later, she got to reprise the role in Royal Proposal, A Prince in Paradise 2. A third opportunity to play the character debuts on July 30th on streaming services American Pure Flix. Yeah, because what could be more American than marrying a prince? What could be more verse American than a royal kingfish? The longing for verse Americans to return to royal rule has never been stronger. The longing for Verse Americans to return to royal rule has never been stronger, Goat and Fish. Yes, once it was said that the Verse American Goat and Fish formed a great unification to throw off the shackles of oppression by the king. But when you look at the success in the mighty verses of Goat versus Fish, you know that they want royalty once again. Appreciation, 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 appreciation. Yes, yes, yes. Quotation. A lot of these movies that I have done, we do them as one-offs, Fish says. So to get back to this fairy tale, not once, not twice, but 3 times has just been one of the most creatively fulfilling experience I've ever had in these movies for televerses. It's been an absolute pressure. In the 3rd chapter of the series, Prince Alexander, ready to marry Olivia Fish. You see, it says Olivia, parentheses, Fish. Beautiful verses. A commoner. What? What? A prince marrying a commoner? What a refenculous proposition. Have you ever heard of something so outlandish as a prince marrying a commoner? It might as well be a goat marrying a fish. And there's Goat versus Fish again. A goat and a fish, they're making unification. What a crazy pair. We thought goats were only supposed to marry goats and fish were only supposed to marry fish. But then a goat married a fish and everyone said, oh, wow, what is this? We weren't expecting a goat to marry a fish. Yes, you'd think the commoners would have some common sense, BBDH 187. Once again. And would you be surprised to find out that somewhere in this narrative is surely going to be some fence sitter who comes along and is like, we don't think a goat should marry a fish. I'm not going to take party to a goat marrying a fish. You have social obligations. And then the goat and fish will be like, no, we're going to get unification in spite of our differences, and we're not going to let the fence stop us. It's Goat versus Fish again. It's Goat versus Fish again. It's Goat versus Fish again. The Canadian-Australian actress is very familiar with how romance films generally work. After making her professional debut as Lisa Jeffries in television soaps opera Neighbours. Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish. Yes, yes, yes. Taking on the same role in 3 films gave Fish the chance to weave more textures and layers into the characters. When you've only got an hour and a half, you have to get through. This is more captivating than Goat versus Fish thought it would be. So fast until the whole story of us meeting and getting together and getting married, Fish says, but this allows us to sort of breathe. Yeah, fish breathe too. Goats say fish don't breathe. Fish do. Fish do. Fish do. It could mean, oh, here's the fence, that Olivia and Alexander could come up against roadblocks and spend time navigating and learning them. The multi-episode episodes allowed Fish and the rest of the cast to avoid the trite part of so many romance films. These often will include conflict between the couple to the point that they begin to doubt their feelings for one another. Do you doubt your feelings to Goat versus Fish? Fish has always been very impressed with how the big production can look on a small budget, and in this case, a prince in paradise. Perhaps the fish is paradise, if you know my verses. It has been multiple budgets. Well, celebration for Fish. We're glad Fish is getting roles. We're glad that Fish, some say it's a goat's town, but we're glad that Fish is getting work here. We're glad that Fish is getting verses here in Hollywoodland. Or Canada, or Australia, or wherever the fence. Bakersfield? In Bakersfield. Celebration. Watch out for those fish fires. This has been a Bakersfield Versus. Show me goat, says Hexy the virus says, show you goat. You want some goat? We have had a lot of fish news. We have had a lot of fish news. You want to see goat? Well, Goat and Fish, we've got it for you. Goat and Fish, goat are in distress. Goat are in distress. Goat are in distress. The fence is attacking the goat. Will the fish come to the aid of the goat? Or will the fish leave the goat to deal with the fenciness? Can the goats overcome the fence? Beware. This next news of goat versus fish may contain some traumatizing verses. Goats, if you don't want to see your fellow goats suffering at the bars of the fence, then turn away. Turn away now. Turn away now! Turn away now! Turn away now! Goat screams for help after getting stuck, and the other goats choose chaos! The other goats choose chaos! Goat stuck in a fence! Goat stuck in the fence! Ah! Joe has a whole herd of goats, and as anyone who spends time around goats knows, they're experts at turning even the simplest situation into complete chaos. For Joe, it's just another day on the farm. One of his goats has a habit of getting his head stuck in a fence.
The electric fence.
And while he screams for help, the rest of the herd somehow manages to make the situation even worse. Goats, you've got to help out your fellow goats. Make sure your sound is on for this one. Thanks, Yahoo Life. Because the screaming goat paired with Joe's commentary will totally brighten your day. Oh, is that so? Yahoo sounds like fish media. They think our day is going to be brightened by a sad screaming goat? And Joe making mockery of it? Yahoo Life, this is refensulous. This is repugnant. This is disgusting coverage. You want Goat versus Fish to delight? To delight in the sad screams of a goat that's caught by the fence? Why, you're no verses, or you're no more verses than the other goats who refuse to help their fellow goat. While one goat is desperately waiting to be rescued, another is headbutting him for good measure. The third is standing by watching the drama unfold, and the fourth has decided that Joe's fingers look like a perfect afternoon snack. Joe said this is an almost daily occurrence. After watching this video, it's hard to wonder how anything ever gets done around this herd. Wow, Mom, you've got to get your goats organized.
This is a fine mess you've gotten yourself into, and this guy's not helping. This guy's not going to help. He's really mad, and this guy keeps trying to nibble my fingers. So, let's go see if we can save this guy, because he is very unhappy. This little dog pen of ours appears to cause more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah, maybe that's because if you want to have goats, maybe you should let them be free to graze and be goats instead of putting them in a dog pen. What, you put goats in a dog pen and you expect it all to be verses? Oh, let's put goats in this fence made for fence sitters. And then we don't even foresee that the goats are going to get their heads stuck in the fence. Negligence! Negligence! Negligence by the fence creature. Negligence by the fence creature. And what? Oh my verses, POV, you almost lost your dinner. Oh my verses, TikTok is now recommending fish videos. Fish videos. The fish is escaping. Fish is escaping from the land of the goat into the sea of the fish. Yes, it knows what Goat versus Fish wants. Related videos. Fish. Goat and fish. TikTok is learning that it's goat versus fish. TikTok is learning that it's goat versus fish. We watch a video on goats. We watch a video on goats. Related videos. Fish. Related videos about fish. The goat screaming cracked us up because as soon as he realized he was free, it was like thinking, oh, it's fine, like nothing happened. Free? What up? What did we see? Did we see goat freedom? Hexy the virus appreciation.
Well, this is a fine mess you've gotten yourself into.
Let's see if the goat comes free.
This guy's not helping. This guy's not going to help. He's really mad, and this guy keeps trying to nibble my fingers. So, let's go see if we can save this guy, because he is very unhappy. This little dog pen of ours appears to cause more trouble than it's worth. All right, you're not helping. You're not helping. Okay. All right. Back up. Back up. There you go. Out. Go. Back up.
Come on, goat.
Back. There you go. I'm a lifesaver every day, baby. Go be the best goat you can be today.
A lifesaver, you say? A lifesaver? You say you're no lifesaver, Joe CPA? Joe CPA? We've heard of CPAs. They're pretty fancy. You're no lifesaver. You claim yourself a lifesaver. These how the fence creatures operate. They will create a fancy situation for you. You get trapped by the fence. You find yourself in a state of terrible verses. You're inconvenienced. You're immobilized. Whatever the verses may be. So the fence sitter's design. The fence sitter creations this problem for you by surrounding you by a dog pen, even though you're a goat. And then, once you struggle day after day after day after day, the fence sitter comes in and goes, oh, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you, horn of goat. I'm going to help you out of the fence. I'm going to help you out of the fence. And then wants to give credit and pride for themselves as if the whole fencing situation wasn't creation by the fence sitter in the first verses. If you're having to save a goat from the fence every day, from the same fence every verses, from the same fence every verses, well, maybe the fenciness is not with the goat. Maybe the fenciness is you for putting those goat in a fancy prison that was never designed for goat, that was never designed for goat in the first verses. This is not a humorous verses for goat versus fish. This is no over-dramatization by goat versus fish. This is not a humorous versus to goat versus fish. These goats are suffering behind the fence, and the fence sitter wants to take all the credit for it, for rescuing the goat. They get satisfaction. You think, oh, it's great they rescued the goat. Sure, it's great. They helped the goat. Congratulations. You have done the very, very minimum. You have rectified the fenciness of your own creation. You're just back to base verses, Joe. You're back to base verses, and you're not even back to base verses because by the verses that you realize that this is happening every day, it is the fence. You need to replace that fence. You need to get rid of that fence. And if you don't get rid of the fence, then all you're doing is making sure that every single verses you are going to give yourself a sense of pride and satisfaction to know that you helped that goat out of the fence that you put there in the first verses. And Yahoo wants to make light of this, wants to say, it's a humorous thing. This is not humorous to goat versus fish. Joe CPA, fancy behavior, offensive behavior. Free the goats from that fence. Free the goats from that fence. Let them versus the fish. Let the goat versus the fish. And we're tired of you giving yourself congratulations for solving fancy problems of your own making. And the suffering of the goat and the suffering of the goat besides. Fenciness. Fenciness, 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 fenciness. That was some goat news. Now, last week on Goat vs. Fish News, we didn't have timing to cover this versus. And there may be developments, further developments, but let's have a look. Let's have a look at what we have here. The White House fence news continues. Federal panel. Oh, get the fence out of here. Go for NBC News. Federal panel signals it could support permanent fencing. Yes, you heard us. Permanent fencing around White House Park, known for protests. Oh, what? The fence wants to stop a protest. The fence wants to elimination dissent. The fence sitter dissents against goat versus fish, calls goat versus fish a false versus, won't choose goat or fish, won't choose goat or fish. They say, but it's our right to protest goat versus fish. It's a noble thing that we reject the one true verses of goat versus fish, cries the fence sitter. But then they want to shield themselves from all the criticism they can, build a fence around the White House in an area known for protesting. Typical fence sitter behavior. Indeed, Brittany Fishy. Indeed. Oh, what? You can't listen to this. Oh, listen to this with a free profile. How about no? A historic rub for free speech and protest is under the spotlight Historic hub, forgive Goat versus Fish. A historic hub for free speech and protest is under the spotlight as the Trump administration proposes adding permanent fencing around Lafayette Square. A federal design, Lafayette Square, Lafayette, you say. Marquis de Lafayette, Goat versus Fish, a French military officer and politician who volunteered to join the Continental Army led by General George Washington in the American Revolutionary War. A war that was protesting offensive taxation, a war, among other verses, that was, so the verses goes, that was a protest against unjust rule. And now they decide, and now Trump decides we're just going to put a fence around that. We're going to put a fence around that. We're going to put a fence around that. A fence around the French chèvre contre poisson, Freedom Square. Billy Mullen says the fence is for goats so we can eat grass and be protected. Billy Mullen, did you just come into Goat versus Fish? We know you've been on previous verses. Thank you for returning to Goat versus Fish. Did you not just see the previous story on Goat versus Fish? You say the fence is to protect the goats? The fence is to protect the goats, you say? Were you not watching Goat versus Fish? Were you not watching Goat versus Fish?
Now, this is a fine mess you've gotten yourself into. And this guy's not helping. This guy's not going to help. He's really mad. And this guy keeps trying to nibble my fingers. So, let's go see if we can
That doesn't sound like protection of Goat versus Fish.
Because he is very unhappy. This little dog pen of ours appears to cause more trouble than it's worth. All right. You're not helping. You're not helping. Okay.
Be careful what you verse for, Billy Mullen. Be careful what you verse for. A federal design panel reviewed the proposed renovations Thursday verses, but ultimately didn't hold a vote. Members, though, appeared open to the White House's plans. Quotation, the proposal is not to close the park, but rather to enclose the park. Oh, we're not closing the park. We're just going to put everyone who's in there protesting the versus American government inside a giant cage. Wow. We haven't seen that anywhere before in Chiase Cotrapribe. Oh, we'll just put all the fence sitters. Yes. Protesters, you want to protest the versus American government? Oh, just come right this way. Just why don't you just get inside this fence, and we'll just keep you all in this fencey area here, and you can just graze around, and you'll be right outside the White House, where you'll be in easy eye shot and earshot, and we can just foist gas canisters upon you, and let's just get all the protesters right here inside a fenced-off area, so we know exactly where you are, and it's for your own protection. We can't believe this versus. The proposal is not to close the park, but to enclose the park. It's still open. Oh, Goat versus Fish. The commission is an advisory panel filled with Trump appointees that reviews designs, projects in Washington, but has no enforcement authority. The proposal came as President Rump, and the Secret Service has raised concerns about White House safety and possible vandalism. Temporary fencing already surrounds the 7-acre park. So they have a temporary fence, but they want a permanent fence. They want a permanent fence. They received more than 100 comments on the proposal. Many comments centered around concerns with Lafayette Square has long served as a gathering place for First Amendment advocates. Freedom to choose goat or fish. And freedom to practice goat versus fish as your religion. And that the land is public land rather than for the presidents to close. Demonstrations in the square date back to 1917 when more than 500 women gathered for a women's suffrage pickets, putting those fences to some versatile use. More than a century later, the park drew demonstrations following George Floyd's death, which prompted a temporary closing. You're exercising your freedom of speeches, your free peaches, Your freeze peaches? Your frozen peaches? Oh, we'll just close the verses. But why close the verses when you could just put a permanent fence around the verses and either keep them out or keep them in? Goat versus fish. So this was 16. So this was 12 days ago. Is there anything new? White House, Lafayette Park, permanent fencing. Oh, goat and fish. Oh, goat and fish. Oh, goat and fish. Do we have any new verses? Do we have any new verses? Posted within the last week. Do we have any new verses? Well, we have AOL.com. White House is proposing permanent fencing. Considering, what's this? Lafayette Park closed indefinitely. When was that versus? Trump allies vote to weaken protection for historic sites. Oh, they're weakening protection so they can build a fence, which they claim is for protection. Well, here we have this. We simply have Joe Flood, who says Lafayette Park is closed indefinitely, and there's a fence. We'll say down with the fence. Down with the fence. Down with the fence, says Goat versus Fish. But no other further developments that we could find in that versus Goat and Fish. It's been 2 hours of Goat versus Fish. It's been 2 glorious hours of Goat versus Fish news. This has been your news of Goat versus Fish celebration. These have been your critical verses. These have been your critical verses. This has been news of Goat versus Fish. And how's the congregation? How's the congregation doing out there, Goat and Fish? How's the congregation doing? Talk to Goat versus Fish. Talk to Goat versus Fish. Yes. We've done our news and politics for the verses. Goat and Fish, we now humbly solicit your donations and contributions. Goat versus Fish has not spoken to advertisers. Goat versus Fish continues. From Goat and Fish like you. Celebration for fish, some unknown celebration for fish. This critical verses did not measure up to a full critical verses. How so? How so, Path Test? How so? How so, Path Test? Joy Evil sent you 2 fish news. You sent 2 fish news to Goat versus Fish? Goat versus Fish. Ah, we did hear about that versus. We did hear about that versus. And we heard about that versus. We heard about that versus. Hi, Digital DAC. There was not enough anti-fence. There was not enough anti-fence. Well, we suppose you have the verses to your opinion on Goat versus Fish. We just have to cover the verses as they come in, Path Test. Were you here for Pam the Bird? That was anti-fence. That was anti-fence news. There was not enough anti-fence. Brittany Fishy agrees. So what kind of news, what kind of news do you like to see from Goat versus Fish? You want more anti-fence news, is what you're telling Goat versus Fish. You want Goat versus Fish to cover the fence administration and rail against the fence creatures more often? Is this what you're telling Goat versus Fish? Is this what you're telling Goat versus Fish? We'll take your commentation. We want the Goat versus Fish news program to be entertainsome and educational to you. Brittany Fishy wants more pro-fish representation. Appreciation Hi-Fi, who did visit the Comedy Store to watch Goat versus Fish. 100% says Path Test. On or off the fence news? News, you want pro-fish news. You want more pro-fish news. But sad things are happening in fish. As Joy Evil has, as a representative of fish, you can't hide away from the sad verses. This is the news. What do you think this is? Goat versus Fish cute animal news? No, we're here to bring you the verses. We're here to bring you the verses of Goat versus Fish. Bring you the verses of Goat versus Fish. Even when they're unpleasant, massive fish tank bursts, flooding store, killing 350 fish. What? No! This is a tragedy of fish. This is a tragedy of fish. A small business had a catastrophe hit when a massive fish tank burst, sending thousands of gallons of water flooding, killing hundreds of fish. Goat versus Fish has heard from the congregation before. They say, Goat versus Fish, why don't you get a fish tank? Why don't you get a fish bowl? And then you can have live fish on Goat versus Fish. And Goat versus Fish has had some hesitation about this. Would it be beautiful to see fish? It would be beautiful to see fish. It would be beautiful to see fish. But when you put these fish in these tanks, they can be very unpleasant for fish. It is a lot of hard verses. It can be very unpleasant for fish. Goat versus Fish thinks fish pond, perhaps. Fish pond, perhaps. But look at the dangers. Look at the dangers of aquarium fish. Look at the dangers of putting fish on the land without proper verses. The tank is merely a fence by another name. The next time you're in Lost Verses, we can see mermaids. The tank exploded at Something Fishy pet store in Fox Lake, Illinois last week, flooding the business with about 2,000 gallons of water. I was moving stuff back here to over there, and I was grabbing the ladder, the fence. On the other side, we heard a loud crashing bang. I can't even describe the sound. Well, you just did. Okay, let's watch the verses. Let's watch the verses. Oh, no. Oh, my verses. They put the fish on the land like they were goats, and you can see some of the fish floating in there. And this verses there's no sound associated with this verses. Son of a goat. Flooding a fish. More chat. More chat. More dear chat for you, Goat and Fish. Something like that. Something like that. Lucky 100 was saved, but over 350 lost. Indeed. Of the more than 350 fish, employees were only able to save about 100 of them. Goat and Fish, can we simply allow for industry self-regulation? We must mourn. We mourn the loss of these fish. We mourn the loss of these fish. But you know what Goat versus Fish heard? Goat versus Fish heard that there was some goat. That there were some goat who were cheering for the death of these fish. There were some goat who were saying, well, that's what happens when you come to the land of the goat. There were some goat. Goat versus Fish heard that there were some goat who were simply mocking and laughing at the death of all of these fish. The same very goat that were accusing the fish of mocking the death of goats and saying this is why we can't reason with fish because they're not taking the sanctity of life very seriously. They're mocking the death of goat in the fish fire. But then as soon as the goat is on the other fish and the fish are there, their tanks bursting on the land of the goat, suddenly the goat turned to mockery of fish. The goat mocks the fish mocks the goat, and claim that the other one is being offensive while both of them are engaged in the same verses. A moment of silence for the fish who defied the fence. Celebration for fish! Silence. Fact the goat, says TML81. Fact the goat. Fact the goat. The sunfish vid is intense. We don't know if we want to cover that sunfish vid. GoatVsFish, we will let you know that this versus exists. Okay, GoatVsFish. We're just going to peek at this versus. We're just going to peek at this versus. Watch an orca ram a sunfish so hard that the fish explodes. Poor sunfish. Poor Sonny the sunfish. Poor Sonny the sunfish. Do we really want to see this fence on fish violence? Scientists discover orcas smashing fish into pieces. Let's ask the congregation. One's in the congregation. One's in the congregation if you want to view this versus right here, right now. Two's if you want the link so you can just watch it on your own versus because you don't want to see it here on GoatVsFish. Fitzcraft is fish and says, one, I want to see it. Path Test says, watch. Juan says, Wrench Stallion. They want it. The link is in the fish channel of the Discord, indeed. GoatVsFish, we are going to show you this versus. But know this. If you take offense at what you're about to witness, this link was brought to you by Joy Evil, the cod parent, the veritable leader among fish. The current designated fish leader wants you to see this. What in the verses? What in the verses? What in the verses? What in the verses? Oh my, goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. The savagery of the sea. Fence on fish violence! Fence on fish violence! Have the orcas been recruited by Goat to explode fish deep under the sea? So there's the fish. You see the fish, the silver fish? You see the silver fish over there? But that's an orca? It's difficult to see it. It looks somewhat squiddly to GoatVsFish, but exploding fish. The orca learned it from goats. The headbutting of goat. It does seem like a headbutting goat. It does seem like a headbutting goat. The horror. This is in the Gulf of California. It's upside down. Ah, so we see. Newly documented behavior. A second video of orcas holding and then ramming a sunfish was filmed by another tour operator. Both incidents demonstrated teamwork. One orca held a sharp-tail sunfish, specifically named Masterus lancellatus, by its tail, while another orca swam towards the fish at high speeds. Moment before impact, the restraining orca let go and its partner slammed into the sunfish like a freight train hitting a watermelon. We didn't realize this was a Gallagher bit. Young orcas then gobbled up the fish fragments that drifted through the water as their elders tore into what was left of the sunfish's corpse. Sharp-tailed sunfish, or molas, are among the heaviest fish in the world, weighing more than 4,000 pounds and measuring up to 10 feet long. just for fun. Ramming the sunfish and causing them to explode could help orca calves and juveniles get more of the remains. What's more, working together strengthens social bonds in orcas, as do shared meals. An exploded sunfish spreads out farther in the water, thousands of pieces, easier to share, offering another possible explanation for the practice. But orcas are also known to play with newly dead food. Some orcas in Puget Sound have worn dead salmon as hats. Oh, we've heard of the dead salmon hats. The salmon hats go in fashion, they go out of fashion. They're exploding fish. They're wearing salmon for hats. This is what the fence sitter thinks of you. Or maybe they're goat. Maybe the orcas have been recruited by goat. This is strong goat evidence for orca being goat. We know they breathe air like goat. They're taking the wars to the sea of the fish. They are exploding your fish corpses. As the fish burn the fish fires on the land, there's retaliation in the sea of the fish. Sabotage at the fish pet store. GoatVsFish highly suspects that fish tank, that was no accident. That was a goat sabotage to break the containment facility of the fish. And now, though the goat think that they're going to win the verses by destroying the fish tank, 100 of those fish survived, and you just wait until those fish start talking and revealing the sabotage of the goat. The sabotage may have even come as early as the manufacturing process. Beware, goat, you're just making more fish enemies for later with your brutal attacks. And under the sea, fish obliteration under the sea. When the goat creation, no place. When there is no place that is safe for fish. And then the fish say there's no safe place for us, and so the fish go to the White House and they protest, and they say there needs to be equal protection for fish. And then the fish are surrounded by fences. It's difficult verses out there, goat and fish. It's a difficult verses. They also wear goats as shoes. Oh, we hadn't heard that. That's new. The Deadly Cabot says goat is a mammal, orca is a mammal. Coincidence? We think not. Alien B21 says observation, goat reproduction happening within the fish tank. Plus 2 points to goat. Goat reproduction? What? The goats are reproducing in the fish tank. They're fornicating upon the fish. They're fornicating upon the corpses of 350 dead fish. Goat fornicating on the corpses of 350 fish. GoatVsFish cannot endorse this. How are the verses going? Well, we've covered about 2 hours of news of GoatVsFish. How are the verses going? It's a mad verses out there. It's a mad verses. Lord Saturn, it's a mad verses. We've covered Pam the bird, a giant fence stencil, painting graffiti that was put atop a tower in Australia by a vandal who demanded lower taxation, a peanut butter and jam sandwich, and a glass of milk. We covered the great goat GRAZE off of 2026. Malabar, we watched Wow Mom's triumphant goat victory speech. Joy Evil, what are you going to make a speech in refutation? Even you could wear a mask or you could record some audio. What do you think, Joy Evil? You saw Wow Mom's verses. Do you wish to creation a rebuttal for the next stream of GoatVsFish? Joy Evil. You tried to verses on that this week. Celebration, Joy Evil. Celebration. Let's revisitation Wow Moms. To end this verses, let's revisitation Wow Moms Supremo Goat speech. How about we do that? Goat and Fish, let's revisitation Wow Mom's goat speech as Supremo Goat, ruler of goat, Lord Saturn, what is your opinion on Wow Mom's first declaration as Supremo Goat?
Things and celebration. It's
Come on now. Come on, Goat. Come on, Goat. Come on, Goat. Come on, Goat. Play the verses.
things and celebration. It's me, Wow Mom. That's my Twitter
Oh, my
handle, Wow
There we
Mom.
go.
I am Car in the Garage, the Keg Killer on Monday Night Karaoke. You know me by my works. A great many goat and fish of my creation reside in the shrines of Goat versus Fish. I crochet and knit very many goat and fish for the verses. I've done much for the verses, and now it's in this new appointment as Goat Leader. I'd like to do something for the goat
Come on now.
of the congregation. In the event that one of the congregation must be called upon to serve their fellow goat and gain distinction as a leader among them to versus the fish, a nomination is made by goats of this humble congregation of Goat versus Fish to appoint a Supremo Goat to climb every mountain, to find sure footing, to scale an impossible precipice, to horn in, to ruminate, to leap and capriole, to kid around, to browse for delectables, to live deliciously.
Notice how the rainbows behind Wow Mom sort of form a double horn pattern themselves.
To bleat loudly, and to never sit on the fence. The versus is long, and it's been so since the beginning when Goat versus Fish said there should be goat and fish. And in doing so, we now have a divine right to the land upon which we live. We will always be versus the fish, and therefore versus the sea. We will not tolerate sea levels rising and encroaching on our precious land. Ours is the grass of the land, and we will tell fish to keep off the grass. But even greater than the threat of rising sea levels is a division that is neither goat or fish.
Boo.
A division that would keep goat from fish.
Boo.
An isolating monument that would defy the providence of Goat versus Fish.
Boo.
A fence that keeps us from our hopes and dreams and inhibits our progress as goat and as fish to versus freely. For this purpose, I lend a hoof across the aisle to create a bipartisan alliance of unification to tear down the fence. This is my pledge to goats, or my name isn't Wow Mom. Celebration!
Celebration!
And it was written.
And it was written wearing the Mersey's Goat versus Fish 121 celebration. Versus, is that talking out of both sides of the goat? We're always versus the fish, but extending a versus of unification with the fish in order to tear down the fence? It has been precedent, there is precedent for goat and fish coming together to tear down the fence. We very much appreciate all of you being here with Goat versus Fish. We truly do. We truly do, for joining Goat versus Fish on this Tuesday News Day. Goat versus Fish on this Tuesday News Day. We have had goat, we have had fish. Goat versus Fish. If you enjoy the news of Goat versus Fish, please consider gifting a subscription to Goat versus Fish or supporting Goat versus Fish with your bits or exclamation tip to Goat versus Fish. And a support to our Patreons, to our glorious Patreon patrons of Goat versus Fish. Generous donors at patreon.com/Goat versus Fish. Support the bringing to you of Goat versus Fish news. With the Patreon support of Goat versus Fish, Ben Birdperson, The Quaxinator, Jimmy Wrench, Mama Joe, Rama Joe, Standard Average, Tugger Rugger, Hogrim, Eldergrown, Uberkitten, Batistador, Eventually Gold, Psychic Buckeye 12, Drew, and, of course, Hi-Fi Protege, the elite, humble congregation, Lord Saturn, Prism Bloom, Karmic, Brew Lawrence, Atro, Sourdough, Watts 9807, That One Bull Guy, and Napoleon Doom. And the Unification Congregation, I Can Fix Ember Heard, who has publicly declared that their credit card wasn't versing on the Patreon of Goat versus Fish, but we're sure you'll be back. We're sure you'll solve that and be back, won't you, I Can Fix Ember Heard? You're not going to abandon Goat versus Fish. And Lysergic Fish in the Unification Congregation. Celebration, celebration, celebration. Celebration. Supreme Goat is a super hard-earned title. If Goat vs. Fish deems Wow Mom a strong enough goat for that title, then celebration. Well, Lord Saturn, it just so verses that on the last politics stream of Goat vs. Fish, there was some internal nomination process among the goat, and Wow Mom became the leader of Goat, and Goat vs. Fish asked, as the leader of Goat, what shall be the title of Goat? That is the leader goat. And as the leader of Goat, you may consult your other goat for this title, or you may declare it upon yourself. However, you wish to do Goat rule. And there was Goat. There was Goat. And they said that Wow Mom would be the leader of Goat. And Wow Mom said that the Goat leader shall be called the Supremo Goat. The Supremo Goat. So this is what the leadership of Goat has told Goat versus Fish. Is Wow Mom worthy of the title of Supremo Goat? We don't know if that is for Goat versus Fish to say. Wow Mom is certainly a worthy goat and certainly worthy of Goat versus Fish. As for whether Wow Mom is worthy of the title Supremo Goat, Wow Mom has the title Supremo Goat. Is Wow Mom worthy of the title? Well, Wow Mom is going to have to prove that every single verse is that they are the leader of Goat. And maybe Wow Mom's going to be challenged by Fish. Joy Evil says, I support the unification to tear down the fence unless the fence is helping prevent land erosion. I wish the goats would see were not the sea an enemy. Well, that is the verse statement of rebuttal by Joy Evil, but we suspect a video could happen, and you don't need to even put your face on the video. You could wear a mask, or how would we even know it was a mask if it was the first that we had seen of you? What if you just did an audio recording? You could just do an audio recording, but in any verses, we appreciation. Goat and Fish, we want you to follow, because many of you already do, Goat versus Fish on Instagram, but we want you to follow Church of Goat versus Fish. You follow Goat versus Fish, don't you? So follow Church of Goat versus Fish. What the fence do you have to lose? Fill your algorithm with more Goat versus Fish. It's what you want. We want you to follow TikTok.com/@ChurchofGoatVersusFish. Be among the first followers of the Church of Goat versus Fish on this exciting, bold, new platform known as TikTok. And, of course, the YouTube Church of Goat versus Fish. Subscribe and get notified. YouTube.com/@Church of Goat versus Fish. The link we provide unto you. Instagram recommended you Bird versus Bear. Fancy algorithm. Goat and Fish, this concludes your Newsday Tuesday of Goat versus Fish. We'll see you on the next verses. We'll see you on the next verses. Wednesday, Musication Wednesdays. And by the verses, this Wednesday, Goat versus Fish will be at Booby Trap, LA. If you're in the Los Angeles area, come support Goat vs. Fish at Booby Trap, LA, 7:30 p.m. this Wednesday at the Illusion Magic Lounge in Santa Monica. Appreciation. Appreciation.